Today's tutorial is inspired by the newest version of the movie It. I was a big fan of the original with Tim Curry, and I finally watched the newer two last year, and I love those as well. So this is inspired by that. As I mentioned in the post, and those of you that got this via email, I will be using the traceable to transfer the image over, as the symmetry is hard to get quickly and I don't want to waste your time watching me draw for an hour. So, but before I put the transfer on, I want you to grab a brush that you don't really care about. So I have a brush here that is kind of worn out. So that's what I'm going to use for this. We're going to do kind of a smoky background here on our, just give it this little spooky feel. So I'm going to take some white and add a little bit of black to it. Now you don't need to mix much of this. This is just kind of a light gray. And I'm going to be using quite a bit of my glazing medium, or you can use water if you have that. And I'm just going to start doing just little swirls. And this is why you want to use a brush that you don't really care about, because it is going to tear up your brush. That is why mine looks the way it does. And you'll see as I'm going, I haven't reloaded my brush at all. I'm getting every bit of paint out of my brush before I load more. And that adds to that kind of smoky effect. So I'm just doing little swirls. It doesn't matter which direction, forwards, backwards. I'm gonna add a little bit more of my glazing medium. And just keep going in a circular pattern. I'm going to go over this a little bit because I think I overloaded a bit much with my brush there, so I don't want it too intense in any one spot. And you're just going to come through some areas, like when you see fog or smoke, are going to be a bit more intense than others. If you get it too intense, you can come in with some black and fill in. But you don't have to go too crazy. I just want this smoky, foggy sort of background. I'm going to leave the center black, but I'm just doing this all around the edges. And you can see why this just really tears up a brush. It is not something you want to do with one of your favorite brushes. a side note, this is a very similar process to how you would paint clouds if you wanted to paint clouds in one of your paintings. If there are any spots that got a little bit too blended, you can come back in and add a touch more over it to add some of that smoky creepiness to it. Or, like I said, come in with some just black and go over some areas that got too much. I'll wipe off the black and come back in with a little of my gray to kind of fill in a little bit. I have to let that dry and I'll put more. There we go. And you're just gonna swirl, get that smoky, spooky kind of feel. Kind of happy with how that is. So I'm just going to do a few more touches here and there. I got pretty intense there with this one, so I'm going to blend that out some. Touch more up here. And there we go. I have my smoky-esque background. Okay. So I'm going to let this dry. And while that's, once it's dry, I'm going to put my transfer on, or traceable. Okay, so as you can see, the background is dry and my transfer is on here. So we're going to start from the top down, and I'm going to get a thin round brush, a small round brush, and I'm going to just start with the red clown face paint. Now, as I've mentioned previously, the cadmium reds tend to be or reds in general tend to be pretty transparent, so this will require a couple coats. We're just going to fill in all around the paint and his lips right now. Go a little outside the lines, don't worry about it, especially up here by this eye smudge. I'm going to be going over it with black up here, so I'm not worried about trying to get in all those little nooks and crannies there. I really love how the brightness of the red contrasts with the black, and especially the smoky area. I just think it looks so so cool. So around the mouth, I'm going to be a little careful when I get to that part, because I don't want to lose all that detail that I put showing the expression. Okay. There's that. Now I'm going to come in with the lips. The top lip. Again, we'll be doing a second coat here, and it'll pop even more than it already does. I'm leaving that little line there because I don't want to cover it up. I want it to, I'm going to line that in black in a bit when we do the other details. I'm going to switch to a slightly larger brush here just to fill in this larger area. Just smoothing out any big streaks as I go, because that can be a little hard to cover up. Fix the little blip that I made. Okay. I'm going to come in also and do the balloon. So I don't know about your neighborhoods, but every year since this movie came out, some trickster has decided to go around and add red balloons to all our sewer drains in our neighborhood. And let me tell you, when you are walking around your neighborhood at night trick-or-treating, that is quite startling. Especially when you have a drain right in front of your house. I've seen posts on Facebook where people have already started doing it in other neighborhoods. So, fun times, huh? this in. All right. There we go. All right. I'm gonna rinse my brush, and I'm gonna come over to the slicker or raincoat or whatever you might call it. And I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna take the red out of my smaller brush, and I'm gonna come in with just the yellow, the cadmium yellow, bright yellow, whatever you happen to be using. And again, we'll do second coats. So don't worry too much about any of the background showing through at this point. Just getting our base coat, or if you call it maybe even an underpainting. This isn't technically an underpainting, but close enough. And I can move on to a bigger brush for the bigger area there. All right, so I've got my first coat there. So I'm gonna come back in, my red is dry. So I'm gonna come do my second coat for the face paint and lips. And you don't have to be super careful because you've got that base coat, so you're just trying to cover any streakiness or like bald spots or whatever that you might have. You don't have to go crazy trying to be exact. So if you have watched both the original version of It with Tim Curry and the new version, tell me in the comments which is your favorite. I'm kind of torn because they're both good in different ways. But there's always something about an original too, so I don't know. Moving on to a bigger brush for the balloon to get just that second coat on, fill in any blips. And I did miss filling in the little, what is it, a tail? We call it a tail on a balloon? I don't know. Where the knot would be on the string. So I'm going to come in with my small brush and just paint that in real quick. All right. Gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna do some kind of fun little highlights. While I want this to look somewhat realistic, I don't need it to be so hyper realistic that it then gets scary. So I'm just cleaning up a smudgy mark I made. Okay. So we'll do a little bit of a highlight on the balloon and then the lips. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm gonna come in and do the second coat on the slicker. I had a little bit of red on my brush, so I'm coming in, rinsing my brush, and just coming back over. Now some of these spots, there's still a little bit of streakiness, so I may even have to come in with a third coating here. The red's good, but this yellow is a little even more transparent, so I may have to do a third coat on this before I add the details. Okay, so we'll focus up top now and start working on these eyes here. Okay, so I'm going to take a thin brush. Doesn't have to be the thinnest brush, but just a thin one that you can get kind of little details with. And I'm going to outline this where his little smudgy area is. Now here where I don't have any smokiness, I think I'm going to take a tiny bit of white and then just change that part to a little bit of gray so that it will stand out a bit. gray is going to be the way to go. So just a little gray. And we'll do the same on the other side. And you can switch to just black when you get to the smoky area. Just continue to outline. And while I have the black on my brush, I'm just going to do the pupil. These eyes are spooky. Alright, and I'm going to come in with white for the white part of the eye. And after that dries, like I said, with the red and the yellow, we may need to do a second coat. To avoid the black from peeking through. Okay. Now his teeth are like this ugly yellowy white color. So I'm taking some yellow and some white. And I'm going to make this kind of ugly little, adding a little tiny bit of brown to it. This ugly, rotting tooth color, I guess. Now his eyes, the iris, is kind of like a goldenish color. So I'm going to take some of the yellow and a touch of brown. And then we'll come in later and add a little detailing to it to give it more of that golden look. Brown and yellow actually make a really awesome gold color if you're painting jewelry. And then you can add highlights, which is plain yellow, and white to do the shine and reflections. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit for a minute, and I'm gonna come in and do the smudges with the black. Just being careful with my balloon here. And I will, because I've highlighted some in gray, I will come in with some gray too, just to add so you can see it among that background. but just getting the base done here. Now I'll just take a touch of the gray and just come in, kind of smudge it towards the center there. There we go. That'll stand out a little. I think I'm going to fix the outline on it because my outline got a bit wonky when I added the color. So I'm just coming through and fixing that. And the same on the other side, even though that one seems to be a little better. All right. I'm going to come in with my white and redo that second coat on the white. Oops, I'll get the small one. And you can see the more you add, the more this really starts to pop. And it gives you that creepy, spooky, I'm gonna get you vibe that this clown portrays. Okay. I've got a smidge of white in my black over here, so I'm gonna come in and just go over that. Okay. And now taking this goldish color, doing a second coat. And now I'm going to take my thin brush and I'm just going to come in and do some bright yellow just over top very thinly, and that will make it look more golden, like it's glowing. Okay, there we go. Smooth that a bit. And it looks like my red is streaky over here. I don't know if I just forgot to do the second coat all the way up there, but I'm going to come in and just do a little bit more in here just to cover that up. There we go. All right. I think he's looking good. I'm just going to add a touch more of the gray on this side here to really make it pop some more. There we go. All right, so now back to the teeth. I'm gonna come in, do a second coat on those ugly, gnarly teeth. And then I'm going to come in with a smidge of the burnt brown color with black. And I'm going to come in and just fill in. Maybe I'll use my thinner brush for this. Fill in around those teeth. Give him those nasty gums spooky, creepy little gums and let it continue around the teeth. Maybe even a little smudge in between to really show the nastiness that is those teeth. Blend that a little bit. I don't want it so harsh. There we go. Okay. Now for the last part of his mouth, I'm going to take some black, before we do the highlights, I should say, and just do some, just go around the inside of the mouth here and come across, just to make sure we didn't lose that definition of that mouth. Okay, good. I'm going to touch up over here too. Come in. All right. I'm just going to do a little line to kind of show that he's smirking. Maybe fade that out a little. That's a little intense, but I'll leave that up to you if you want to do that. There we go. All right, so I think the clown is done. So now I'm going to come in with my third coat of this yellow to get this slicker done so that we can add the details to it. We're so close, we're so close. This is a fun one. All right. All right. So I'm going to start adding the details for the slicker. And I just want to show just a little bit of shading just to show that this just isn't a little blob here. So I'm taking a thin brush and I'm going to take some, much like the golden color we did for the eyes, I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and mix some brown in it. And we're going to come in, if you remember that little wrinkle I had you put when you were in the traceable, that's what that's for. And then we're just going to come in where the arm goes. And we're going to blend this out, so don't worry, it's not going to look super harsh here. And then where that goes. Maybe a small, I know we didn't do this in the drawing, but maybe a small little wrinkle there. Wrinkle there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of shading around the head to show that it is, you know, round. And some on the sleeve there. Okay, now I'm going to take my glazing medium and a little bit of the yellow, and I'm going to come in and blend the edge where we put these shadows. Just come in and blend so you don't have that harsh, stark, shadowy line. If you cover up too much, feel free to add more. I may do that. And then come back with the yellow and just blend it. Same thing there. Okay, maybe a touch there too. Come in with the yellow, blend it. So this is very subtle, but just any little hint you can do to show that this is not just a flat design. And then maybe I'll take a little yellow mixed with white to lighten it, and maybe do a little bit of a highlight in the center here, and maybe a little around here. And I forgot to blend this. I'm going to add a little bit more and then come in like I did with the yellow and blend away. Okay. A little bit of that light yellow coming in here. And then blend in with the regular yellow. Maybe a touch of shadow around the edges. And then straight yellow down the middle. Maybe a touch of a highlight. Oops. And straight yellow. And a little highlight down the middle. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit because that got a little bit too streaky there. And touch up where I've got some streaks. Just in here. And right in here. And add our yellow to blend. There we go. I'm going to come back in with a bit more of that light yellow and add some more shine, maybe just a straight white right down the middle, and a couple more with the straight white, just to show this is a slicker. Okay, and I'm gonna come in and start adding some shine to our balloon and the lips. So this is just going to be using a little bit of white. You can add the glazing medium or the water, whatever you're using. And I'm just coming in and just doing a few little shine marks. Now my brush is a little flayed because this is one of my favorites and I use it to death. So I don't mind that it looks a little bit streaky because that kind of adds to it. But if that bothers you and your brush is doing that, then go ahead and change out for another brush And now I'm gonna come in just on the balloon and just add a little bit of shine there. Add some glazing medium and really get that to spread out a little bit. Okay, you can even take your finger and blend it if you need to. And just to get that really intense shine right on the edge, and take a little bit of white with the glazing medium and just come in right along the edge of the balloon like that. Okay. Maybe another touch right there. All right. Now the last step, as always, is to sign your name. I will, after the fact, come in and clean up any chalk marks or bumpy lines that I might have. I think I'm going to come in with yellow for my signature this time. And just sign your piece. Okay. All right, guys, enjoy. Oops, I forgot the reveal. There you go. Final piece. As I was cleaning up, I realized I forgot the string. So I'm just using plain white and a little bit of glazing medium. I have a little black on my brush, so it's coming out kind of gray. So you can do gray or white. And just with a thin brush, come through and just draw your balloon string. Okay, there you go.